Hi, it's starting to get dark. I've tried to manipulate the light. I don't know if it works. Otherwise, you'll have to look at the slides and not at me, and I guess that's just as fine. Okay, so this is part 2 of the future of the physical store. And this time we'll look at what I think could be done with the store. And I should say that I've been touring around in Sweden, primarily in Sweden, with this model, and we have a couple of hundred stores, I think, that are being remodeled in this fashion, and I envision that we will be able to do it also here in the UK once we get this retail center going and when we get some more impact in the retail industry. It all comes from this model. This model is called Plend, Plend. It's a bunch of architects from MIT who created this model quite a long time ago. It's based on, they went to different cities, LA, Jersey City, Boston, and compared areas that people like to be in, found it easy to navigate, would like to go back to, would like to spend a lot of time in, and so on. And they said that these environments could be explained with the use of 5 elements: the paths, the landmarks, the edges, the nodes, and the districts. And the paths would be the visually most prominent element because you walk on them, so you look at them. In the store, of course, this would be the racetrack or the main loop, but also the other small aisles and everything, but areas that you walk on. Landmarks are things that you use to, could be, Empire State Building or Statue of Liberty or Big Ben, or the cathedral. It could be places that you use for that sort of are used to as landmarks to describe the city, give a soul to the area. But they could also be used for navigation. And in the store setting, it would be like in fashion stores, it would be typically mannequins. In the grocery store, it would typically be the end caps or other displays. Sometimes you see stores who try to create more of an atmosphere. So perhaps they have, where they sell fish, they could have an aquarium or something like that. And then we have the edges, and the edges are sort of on the border between the paths and the districts. And I'll use IKEA as a reference to understand or to show you what you can do with the edges. The nodes are open areas, typically the entrance area, the exit area, but also if you have a layout where you're supposed to turn, the best thing you can do is to create an open area, because what happens when people enter or get to an open area is that they stop to choose direction. So if you have a layout that's shaped like an L, for instance, it's good to have an open area where people are to change direction, because then you will be able to guide them in the direction that you want to. And the districts are the departments. So, department is meat or vegetables, or men's clothes or dresses or something like that, or sofas. Okay, this project is done in collaboration with, I think you should perhaps mention IKEA and Whole Foods at the beginning, because they are the major sources of inspiration. And then we have a bunch of other, it should be Bath there, sorry, Stockholm School of Economics is my old place. ICA and H&M more make use of the findings, but we also use them. ICA is used for the experiments, and H&M is also inspiration in some of the cases. And I should say that one of the reasons why I'm fascinated in this project is an old project that I did a long time ago, when I collected data, sales data, gross margin data, and space data for 1,200 stores. And here you see a sample of that. So these are stores, and you have the sales space in square meters and gross margin per square meter. And this is again in Swedish crowns, so divided by 10 to get it in euros. What we find here is typically that in different kinds of layouts, and this was not systematically made that all the layouts were the same. In 1,200 stores, you have many different kinds of layouts, and you can see that even though stores of the same size were used as basis for this, you could see that in the layout there were systematically built-in differences depending on if the store was built during a recession or when it was good economical conditions, or depending on if how much the retailer, the store owner, had to say in the thing. So in this case, you could see that gross margin differences in stores of equal size were in the magnitude of 3 million euros per year profit. And that's the difference between the good and the bad layout. And you could also see that when I use multiple regressions to analyze this, you can see that the explanatory value of the store layout alone, using the difference in gross margin as a dependent variable, is R-square is 49, meaning, or 0.49, meaning that 49% of the variance in profitability in the stores is dependent on the store layout. So 51% of the variation in profitability comes from other factors, such as they have different prices, they are in different markets, they have different assortments, the staff is acting, service levels is different. But 49%, almost half, can be explained by the layout. So the layout has a great effect on profitability, yet retailers don't give a crap about the layout because they don't understand it. That's up to the architects, and the architects don't understand anything about layouts or sales and retailing. So obviously we need to work with these different areas, and let's first look at the paths. And to sort of explain about the paths, you need to understand that retail stores can come in, or they rely on one of three sort of school book kinds of layouts. One is the grid layout. Grid layouts are typically found in discount stores and grocery stores, and there you find grids, or very systematic patterns of shelves or racks that you have, or fixtures that you have along the store. Freeform layout or boutique layout is what you find in typically in fashion stores or jewelry stores, or the kind of stores where you have, lower tables and things are unevenly put in different places, so you sort of get an overview and you're dragged by your eyes rather than follow a maze. And then the racetrack layout is what you find in department stores and also in IKEA layouts, where you sort of walk along a racetrack and then you find different departments along the way. And this is a typical heat map from a grid layout. The circles or the bubbles are what are the areas where people pay attention. So if you think about, for instance, a shopper comes up here, looks down here, all they see is the end caps and then the end. It's not difficult to understand that 40% of the sales come from special displays when the layout is like this. And this is a problem because only less than 1% of the assortment is visible at all in a layout like this. So obviously a solution to this, or at least I think it's a solution, is this is a Whole Foods store from one of the Manhattan stores they have. And you can see that they have broken up the evenness of the grid. They still have a grid, but it's not that you just have to look at the end caps because they are unevenly long. They are reaching unevenly long into the central aisle here. And when you have a layout like this, your eyes are forced to look around because you you want to see where you go so you don't miss anything, or you don't want to fall over anything. So if you create uneven spaces like this is another of the Manhattan stores, you force the head to move around like this instead of just looking straight and increasing the speed. This is perfect for a warehouse. This is perfect for the people working in the store, but this helps the shopper see the assortment much more. So this I call the staircase layout, and it's not always the case that you can fit a staircase kind of layout. So sometimes you have too narrow a building, and then what you can do is you can tilt, or actually this is what you see in a typical store, and this is what you see in a Whole Foods kind of solution. So you see here you can just increase the speed and run through, and it's no inspiration. This is so much more inspirational. What you can do if you don't have the space available to do the staircase kind of solution is that you tilt the fixtures like this. In this very store, it's a fairly large supermarket. When we did this, sales went up with 25% and shopper satisfaction increased with 30%. So either this or this to sort of break the grid layout, because the grid layout is only creating this blind shoppers speeding through the stores. So you need to do something about that, and this is a project that we're working on right now. We next week we're going to plan to rebuild 2 new stores, and we try to break it into as many different small experiments as possible. So again, going back to architect literature on this, you could either create a layout that's legible, easy to read, easy to understand, but boring, or a bit more messy and inspiring. And I do think that the trend or the shift in a omnichannel world, if the physical store's role is to inspire, you can buy the bulk online. If you want to inspire in the physical store, you need to make it more inspiring and messy. Okay, what about the edges? And this is where IKEA come in. IKEA build their world around hotspots. In a given IKEA store, you're not allowed to walk more than 17 meters straight ahead, and then you have to turn. IKEA is the only retail company in the world that understand that in-store decision making is a visual process. And if you look at your head, where are your eyes put? They are put in your face, right? A rabbit has the eyes over or on the side of the ear, so they can look to the sides. We are not rabbits. We look straight ahead. IKEA has understood this, so they always put a very nice, very inspiring display straight ahead of you where you look. This area where you look is called a hotspot in IKEA language. Compare this understanding of that shopping is a visual process and you look straight ahead of you. Compare this to this. Okay, so IKEA has understood this. And then you can see on the floor there to the right, there's an arrow to the right. So when you have seen this inspiring display, they call it a podium, you have the best-selling item right to the right in the movement of it. So when you see this, you feel inspired, you want to buy some new kitchen tools, and then you have the best-selling item next to it. So in every, they call it shop, they call the departments shop. So in every shop you have a list of 30 items that you are allowed to put next to this podium. They are the best-selling items, and they change this list 4 times a year. So every 3 months, when it's a new season, you get a new list, and then you can vary what you have there to create inspiration. So let's look at a video from one of the stores when you enter the market hall, as this area in IKEA is called. No, you're not. doing that, obviously. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Okay. There you have the podium, and then you have the best-selling item. You have to move the podium, hotspot, best-selling item. Podium, hotspot, best-selling item. So when you walk in an IKEA store on average for 2 hours, you see within just a minute you run into 3 hotspots. So you're bombarded with these shop windows. And that's such a massive difference if you compare grocery stores and the inspiration that you get there to what you get at an IKEA store. So that's something that we're working on too, to create hotspots, create more hotspots, and to fill them with the items that we want to market. So it's in a way like creating shop windows within the store where you get the ability or possibility to show what you really want to sell. You want to you can work with cross merchandising, or you can work with best-selling items, or but we are trying to create numerous hotspots in the stores. Landmarks. What about landmarks? Well, let's give you an example from H&M. Mannequins can be used for navigation, inspiration, and sales. Landmarks can increase the complexity, novelty, incongruity, or surprisingness. I have taken away a lot of the slides showing the richness here. You can get them if you want to, but I want to keep this discussion a bit simpler. So here I'm just going to show you sort of the navigational and inspirational aspects of landmarks. So again, legible but boring, without these complex sort of things, or inspiring but messy. So you can sort of use these 4 dimensions, complexity, novelty, and so on, to create the mess. For instance, you can move things around in the store. So say you have a high fashion kind of dress on a mannequin, you can put it among the basic outfits to create more of a mess, increase the complexity. So you create some of the messiness then, but it becomes a bit more inspiring. On the other hand, you can keep it simple, so you have just exactly what's in that surrounding area on the racks. You put that on the mannequin, then it's clean and it's very legible and easy to understand, but you don't get the same amount of inspiration. So you can play with this. But just first look at the presence of landmarks. H&M wanted to know how much they benefited from using mannequins, because visual merchandisers stand for a large share of the staffing cost. Staffing cost is by far the highest cost in the retail business, apart from the merchandise. Merchandise is, of course, the biggest share, but then what you have left when you paid for the merchandise is the gross margin, and half the gross margin is consumed by staffing costs. So they want to know, is it worth to have all these visual merchandisers? In a typical H&M, there would be around 40 mannequins, so they would have like 3 people full-time just dressing mannequins for shop windows and for the floor. So we got we thought about this project. Let's take away all the mannequins from the stores. So stores are divided into 3 departments: women's department, men's and kids departments, and we were allowed to take away all the mannequins except from this green cross here, which is the A area. The bunch, they have like some of, say, 6-8 mannequins that you see when you enter the store. We weren't allowed to touch those, but otherwise we could get rid of all the mannequins from men, women, kids departments. And what kind of effect do you think we got when we cleared the women's department from mannequins? Well, sales went down with 22%. So from 25 euros to 19 euros. And they also complained about that navigation was lost and inspiration was lost. And quality. So obviously the mannequins do a good job. And I used these 22% to explain, because I think today grocery stores are like an H&M without the mannequins. The mannequins add visual merchandising to the stores, or the visual inspiration. So take it away, you lose 22%. So if you start on 78% of 100%, the lift you would get if you have no mannequins and added mannequins would be 28%. So that's what I challenge grocery stores with. I say, if they start to work with something as inspirational as mannequins, they could, on the same sales space, increase their sales with 28%. If they start to use, the tilted chip shelves, or use the sort of staircase solution that I showed you, or if they start to work with hotspots, this is what they can get: a lift of 28%. Okay, I didn't have it here, but it was quite interesting. When we did this in the men's department, what do you think happened? When you clear out all the dolls from the men's department, nothing happened. You can buy black socks without mannequins. And perhaps the most intriguing one is, what do you think happened in the kids department when we took away the mannequins? I'll give you a little hint. There once was a retailer who said, well, we love our kids, don't we? Yes, I have 3 kids, I love them. But we're not willing to spend that much on them. So very price sensitive products are diapers, kids food, anything kid related is very price sensitive. So what happened when we took away the dolls in the kids department is that sales went up with over 70%, because people felt or thought we had lowered the prices in the H&M stores. Without mannequins, everything looked cheaper, so people bought 72% more when the mannequins were gone. So our suggestion to H&M was actually to clear the kids departments from mannequins, but they didn't dare doing that because they were thinking about their fashion reputation and everything. But it's interesting. Okay, also here, finding a balance. And then last, the districts. What can we do there? Well, I think this is fine or interesting, because some stores keep categories together. Some mix products and show categories as they are used instead. So for instance, there are some stores who keep all the jackets together, or you have the H&M. H&M stores are, apart from men, kids and women departments, they have the concepts. So that could be everyday basic or log, or one of their concepts. And then within that they have collections. So it could be the fall collection or so. And then they have the designers. So basically every area of the H&M store is displaying products that fit together. And that's in stark contrast to the one on the left, where all the raincoats are put together. And you see this also in groceries. So you could have it like in the traditional supermarket, where you have, in this case, all the crackers together. Or you could be more like the upscale kind of stores. And you can see this across the Atlantic Ocean in some stores in the USA, for instance. They don't have drinks departments anymore. They put beer and wine among the meat. They put juice in the fruit and vegetable department. Water is in the fruit and vegetable department. So they've chosen to split up different departments. And put categories that are used together in the same area of the store instead. And of course, this is led by Whole Foods Market, who is doing that a lot. And there is an experiment that I told you about on Monday that Anne Rogven has led, where they did this in a couple of Carrefour stores in, I then wasn't sure if it was Greece or Turkey, and I'm still not sure. I think it's Turkey. They're not Carrefour anymore, but they were Carrefour. They weren't Carrefour, but now they're Carrefour. Never mind. And they managed to increase sales per square meter with 60% when they started to blend and display categories that are used together, rather than rice and pasta next to each other. you use pasta and pasta sauce, and you use rice and whatever, you use the rice together with chicken or whatever. So this is obviously good for plan buying if you have everything categorized the traditional way, but if you want to be inspiring and work with shopping, then probably the solution-oriented display is better. So again, Planned is a tool or a way of thinking that I think can be very helpful if you want to look at ways to increase the inspirational level of the physical stores. And I'm pretty sure that you will see a lot of this happening in the retail environment around you in the next few years. I will do my best to make it happen here in the UK, because I do think that retail stores today are far too boring. They need to become so much more inspirational, and I think IKEA and retail firms such as IKEA and Whole Foods can help us in that direction. That was my final lecture. I will see you in the panel discussion, but unfortunately I couldn't be here to produce or present this live to you, but I hope you enjoyed the videos. Thank you very much.